Hi, Jade. Welcome back onto the podcast.
Hi, Andy. Thank you so much for having me back.
So this is our second, third, or maybe even fourth attempt at recording today's episode.
Yeah, it is. I'll let you fill everybody into why I'm cursed with the internet, basically.
So Jade, guys, our girl boss, female property developer, lives in the dark barn. We've watched her develop this incredible house. She cannot get Wi-Fi in the barn. So where are you recording from, Jade? Because this is brilliant.
Yeah, this is so on brand. I'm currently sat in my 83-year-old grandma's conservatory.
She's gone to grandma's to record for the HMO podcast.
Yeah, I'm here.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
But Jade, I doubt there's anyone listening to the podcast today that doesn't know who you are. You're one of my favourite property people. You're one of my favourite people, full stop. We do loads of work together. We chat all the time about property and business and things like that. And we obviously run the HMO Mastermind together, which is what we're going to talk about in today's episode, which I'm really excited about. But can you give us, because there's been so much going on in the last 12 months since you were on the show. Can't believe it was actually 12 months since you came on the show. No, I can't
actually. Yeah.
But just very quickly, just fill us in. What's been going on? And is there anything else, coming up that we can be getting excited about in the Beespace world?
In the Beespace world, oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, so I think, the last time I was with you, I can't believe it's 12 months ago. That's really flown quite fast. The business, the Beespace is split into three businesses. So we've got a operations and letting side, which is constantly always growing and always learning. Just released all of our student houses and had like a crazy influx of messages and a waiting list, and we've gone viral on TikTok with student houses. Which is
I'm
great.
not surprised.
That's great. It's all interior stuff as well, actually, that the students are doing themselves, like interior videos inside the house, which is quite nice. And then, so that's all good. That's all happening. On the development side of stuff, as ever, we've always got, one in with the solicitors, one in construction. We've just landed our biggest deal ever to date, which is in the heart of Article 4 in Nottingham. And if all goes to plan, will be an incredible project for next year.
For our listeners, I've seen this and it's amazing. Yes. And I'm surprised you mentioned it because I thought this was still top secret. But even the numbers that you're already sort of broadly talking about, it's going to be an amazing project. I can't wait to see you develop it.
Yeah, and literally that's all I'm going to say because I don't want to curse myself, right? Because we're like, can't tell you anything until I get to exchange at least. But yeah, I'm excited about that. But, the development side of the business is the main part of Beespace. And that's going really good, really positive. And our team's good. And we've got more rooms coming on at the start of the year. And yeah, it's in a good place. We've definitely recovered from COVID, so that's what we wanted to do.
You hired Eli since I think you last came on, didn't you?
No, Eli's been with me nearly 2 years now.
Oh, has he?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
You're right. Eli's your right-hand man. So for anyone who doesn't know Eli, Jade's right-hand man, he's doing an amazing job of managing lots of your properties and tenants, isn't he?
Yeah, he's my ops manager and all-round saviour. And on the digital side, so we've just done the soft launch of the Hive female membership, which you kind of pushed me on the last time we were on the podcast. And I was like, I don't really want to commit, but it's happened. And the full membership launches in January. We've already got members inside there. Had a big event in Nottingham on the 1st of October. We had 100 females come from all over the UK. That was amazing, really amazing. So yeah, like all the digital stuff's going really well. Developing's going really well. Operations is going really well. It's good. Business is good. I'm really, COVID was tough. 2 little kids to look after, house to build, etc., etc. But we've recovered from it and we're in a really good place.
I think you're a glutton for punishment, Jade. Really. I can't believe how many plates you managed to spin. It's amazing, but you do an amazing job. I say to everybody I work with, and you're still, in my eyes, just the benchmark that is untouchable of design standards.
Design. Yeah, I'll take you on that.
Yes. Well, anything you seem to do turns to gold now. So. Well done, because I know how hard you've worked in the last 12 months to pull it all together, but it's working and it's great to see.
Oh, cheers, dude. I appreciate that. It's nice feedback from someone like you.
And today we're going to talk about the HMO Mastermind, which is our baby, isn't it? And The Mastermind is, well, it's actually just coming to the end of its second year. I ran it initially, and then we ran it together in the last year, which has been tough but amazing. And we're looking ahead at 2023, which seems so weird to be talking about already. And for everyone tuning in today and listening to today's episode, Jade and I want to talk to you about masterminds and why we think they're so important. We've both been a part of masterminds ourselves, paid to be on masterminds, and both found them huge value. And we talk to you about that as well today. We'll want to extend the opportunity to a very small number of people, because we only have a very small number of spaces to join our mastermind, which is going to be the Business in Property Mastermind for 2023. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about what's involved and how you could benefit from the mastermind as well. But I mean, before we get into that, Jade, you and I are both part of a mastermind. Can you tell us a little bit about your mastermind experience and why you thought and found it so valuable?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I was in the IPI mastermind, I don't know, 4 years ago or something like that. And I went into that definitely feeling like, you know, the least experienced of the group. And it was a game changer for me, because everyone who I was sat with around the mastermind table had tons of experience, and it was just great just to be, like, you know, part of their conversation, and you know, kind of learn from them and ask questions. And actually on my mastermind, I met my business partner, Kevin, who I guess...
Who's been on the show.
Yeah, he's been on the show. I guess on paper, Kevin and I are, you know, a little bit like chalk and cheese. But we really kind of bonded in that mastermind group and found like a real middle ground when it came to like design and quality and integrity. And yeah, we're now business partners in Beespace Investments, and he's quite a big influential person in my life. Like, anyone that knows Kevin knows his background in business is untouchable. You know, he's been a global CEO 3 times over, I think. So it's bonkers. I know he was quite, when you had him on the show, you were quite taken back by him, weren't you? You kind of got the full effect. You know, I met him on that mastermind, and I'll always be forever grateful for that, for meeting him.
I did a mastermind in, I think it was 2014, and it was run by 2 guys, one of whom was JP, and our listeners of the show will know JP really well, John Paul, because he's still my non-exec now, and I still do a lot of work with JP. Mm-hmm. And it was an incredible experience. It was the first mastermind I'd ever done, and in fact, it was the first time I'd ever actually paid for some property education or business education, if you like. And that 12 months completely transformed my business at the time. We and my founding partner, I'd been investing for years before this, but wanted to really scale things up and build an investment and management group. And we learned so much from everybody on there. But I suppose just looking back, it was a slingshot to kind of where we ended up. Off the back of that, with all the support and the encouragement and the skills the guys around the table and girls had, we did our big Crowdcube raise. We got the business valued on Europe's biggest crowdfunding platform, and we raised hundreds of thousands of pounds. And it was incredible. There's no way we would have ever done that without being part of an environment like that. We just didn't have the confidence or the skill, or even the knowledge or the understanding that could be done. And it took us to a completely different level. And it was amazing to sit with people and start thinking very differently about how to grow, how to solve problems. I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that we could have done something like that. That was something that you saw other people and other companies do, and tech companies, and definitely. All of a sudden we were doing it. And some of the guys that I worked with then, some of them became business partners. Some are still great friends. And like I said, I'm still working with JP. So I personally found the mastermind that I did the single most valuable thing I ever did. It cost what it cost, but we must have made that back 100 times over. And I think a lot of it started there.
I definitely think, the mastermind format, it's the conversations that you're privy to while it's all happening around you. Like all of those conversations you were listening to around your table got your mind into a place where you were confident enough to go off and, achieve those things that you thought only tech giants did, but you did it. And that's because you're surrounded by the right people that are encouraging you, giving you the right information, and supporting you through it, I guess. It's incredible.
It was just amazing what rubs off on you. when you just sat with the right
Yep.
people. And in retrospect, it was so important for me because my friends and my family were not into property. They weren't even
Yes.
into business. So actually,
Yeah.
I didn't really have an environment or a network or a group to lean on to help with any of that. You know, my thoughts were pretty much in my head and with my business partner, and it's very easy to get lost in your own head. And being
Yeah.
part of that and all that good stuff rubbing off was just amazing. And ever since that, I've always prioritized my network and the people, even if it's not within the mastermind program, the people that I work with. And you're a great example. We connected on social a few years ago, and obviously we've done a lot of work since, and we share contacts and we do all sorts of stuff together in the property industry now. You know, we both got digital businesses and stuff. It's so weird how it works, but actually
Yep.
it just comes back round to people.
100%. And actually, I need to say thank you to you because somebody that you brought onto our mastermind as a keynote, planning consultant, Darren, is actually part of my team now. So he's working on the big deal. He's part of the team that are doing that. So cheers, because he's great and he's going to be so valuable to us. Yeah, and I never would have, they're like gold dust, aren't they? Decent, planning consultants. So cheers for that.
Amazing. And so Darren, for boys and girls listening, Darren's a planning consultant with a very special interest in. He's a gamekeeper turned poacher now with a very special interest in Article 4 directions and
Yep.
overcoming objections from councils. But Darren, I actually met through my NSHEPS group. You know, the group of agencies I work with across the country is about 8 of us. That's how I met those guys, and then I met him through that. So it's just amazing, that butterfly effect. But Jade, there's a few things I want to talk about today about masterminds, and I've got a little list of things that I suppose through being on a mastermind and also running our mastermind that I see as the most valuable bits of being on a mastermind. And I wanted to have a chat with you about this. Now, I've got a bit of a list in front of me, but I don't think I'll put you on the spot because I'm pretty sure we've always talked about this sort of stuff. So I want to talk about the benefits of a mastermind with you and why I think anybody who, I think you agree, who's seriously considering building and scaling a property business should be considering being a part of something like this. So I've got a little list. The first one I want to ask you about is, and let's give it some context about our mastermind, because I think we've always tried to prioritize this stuff in our mastermind, but accountability. You know, how important is that, Jade? And with regards to our mastermind, how have we managed to make that work and make that work for the benefit of our members?
Before we jump into accountability, though, I think it's really important to say, for anyone that's listening, thinking, what is a mastermind? Like, what I'll say is this, like, just give yourself a moment and kind of sit there and think to yourself, right, if I could get in the middle of everything that I've got going on as a small business owner, trying to grow a portfolio, maybe trying to do multiple streams of income in different parts of the industry, if I could get one day a month where I went away, I sat down with like-minded people and I just focused on my business, what I need to work on, with no distractions. So, no kids, no social media, no staff, no tenants, like no builders, all of those things that distract us constantly from growing because we're firefighting. Imagine if you could just take that time for yourself. That is the value of a mastermind. We all need that. We all need that in our businesses as small business. Like you mentioned before, Andy, that the conversations, because your family weren't into it, friends weren't into property developing and growing a business, and you went to your mastermind, and that was your space, your time to flourish, your time to absorb, and your time to go away and implement. And that's when I think what I know a mastermind does to people, individuals. That's the most important thing to say about the format, is that it's about you, it's about your time, you've got that time, and then you go away, you focus, boom, you implement, you get results, you grow, so on and so forth.
I think that is also such a great example of our relationship and our
the way I
dynamic.
just ignored you completely.
I've got a list of, I want to talk about this, Jade, and this and this. And you're like, actually, this is pretty much what it is. And couldn't agree more with you, by the way. That one day where it's like that blue sky thinking,
Yeah,
even
it's
if
great.
the
It's
skies
powerful.
haven't always been blue in Sheffield. But you're so right. You're absolutely right. And for some people, that one day away is the only day in the month that they have to actually work on their business, as opposed to in it.
Exactly. It's powerful. It's powerful because it's like you're sitting there and you're thinking and you're part of the energy in the room, and it's like, and then that's the magic. Then you go home, go back to it all, and you're like, no, bam, this is my priority. This is what I need to work on. This is what I'm being kept accountable for. So getting back round to the accountability.
Oh,
So
smooth,
smooth
smooth,
like
Jade.
that. So I mean, accountability. You know, you've got 10 other faces looking back at you. You're saying this stuff. You've got to go away and do it. And sometimes there's things that we don't want to do in our businesses, you know, like we're building systems and processes and all of that fun stuff. But actually, if you're saying that you're going to do it and it's a priority because it's going towards your 12-year goal, 5-year goals, you've got to turn up because, you know, at the beginning of our sessions, I'm sat there to people, I'm like, okay, these are the goals. Where are we at? Where have we grown from last month? And they have to sit around the table and say, okay, I've done this. Maybe I didn't do enough of this. Maybe I need to do, and everyone's face is looking back at you, and I think that that's really valuable.
Yeah, when you sat amongst a group of people who are doing great things,
Yeah,
all of a sudden it feels very different to look at a blank list, you know, of things that you haven't achieved in the month because you haven't prioritized them, because you've made other choices in the month. And it's funny, but I think humans, we're naturally, a lot of us work to deadlines. A lot of us work better under pressure. A lot of us work well when things are written down and there's an expectation that we've got to turn up and perform. And we've tried to get that threaded into the masterminds, haven't we, with accountability partners, but also just setting those quarterly goals and annual goals as well, and constantly referring back to them. And I mean, that's been so tough this year with the pandemic, which, you know, was the biggest spanner in the works ever, but still, in fact, probably more important than ever it was to have those targets set and be working towards those steps towards the bigger and bigger goals.
I mean, the thing is with like our current group and COVID, like we needed each other, they needed each other, we all got through it, you know. And the other powerful thing about when you're in a group, and obviously we go to a lot of effort to make sure that we've got people in all different parts of the UK. So it was really, it's always been good every month to kind of get a sense of what's happening in other parts of the country. And actually, you know what, we're all going through the same amount of stuff. You know, it's the same problems. It doesn't make you feel like you're kind of going in crazy in your own head thinking, is it only me going through this? Actually, no, everyone else around the table's got a version of that. And to understand that, it just makes it all not easier, but kind of, you can kind of get your head down and just get on with it and think, you know, yeah, this is a phase, this is going to pass. The market's doing this at the minute across the UK. It's not just in my area. So I can survive this. This is a hurdle I can get over. And I definitely sensed that a lot through COVID with everybody. You know, and it was just like, yeah, the same thing's happening everywhere. And now a lot of those issues have simmered right down. And, you know, everyone's echoing that as well. So things are recovering. Like last month on Mastermind, we had an issue, didn't we, with employing staff. And we've got like 4 or 5 people, different parts of the country, will say, I'm really struggling to find staff. So there was such a deep conversation about the approach to finding staff. You know, the CVs, what were you paying them? What are the perks? The way that job descriptions are written, like across the table, we all massively inputted. And we all took so much away from that. But there were the guys that were feeling it were like, one's this in the north, the south, the west, you know. And that's just one example of the type of stuff that comes up for the group.
Yeah, well, that sense checking is on my list, and
good.
it's all sorts, isn't it? It's sometimes, you know, we're struggling with the marketing side of our business and social media and putting the direct to mail campaigns together and doing that stuff, and actually just hearing somebody else is struggling with that as well for the reasons they are. Hearing that other people are struggling with the same recruitment issues as you is all of a sudden, okay, it's not just me. I don't need to beat myself up about it.
Exactly.
And then drawing on the ideas that they've got in, it's huge. And with so many moving parts in property, and, you know, none of us having this crystal ball that we desperately want to know where the market's going, it's massively, massively important just to have those people to keep you in check. And sometimes it's people to keep you in check when maybe you're being a bit overconfident about stuff, when maybe you're being a bit bullish about some decisions, when maybe you think your refurb costing that you've just got back looks great, and actually you've got 3 or 4 people around the table saying, you know what, I don't think that quite looks right. Look, here's a project we've just got costed. Let's compare, let's break this down. And there's a couple of examples of that just recently where people have probably gone away from the mastermind and saved 10, 15, 20,000 because actually someone or more than one person around the table has said, hang on a minute, I'm not too sure that this is right. They've sensor checked it. Hugely important. What about the challenge, Jade? That being part of a challenging environment. I think I sort of touched on it with my experience being a mastermind, and you did as well. But how important do you think it is to be in that environment where you're challenged, not just by having goals set and the accountability thing, but just be challenged by people who are doing great things and doing things maybe in different ways?
I think being challenged is really powerful, right? Because it's making you kind of give your head a wobble and think differently. Don't want to shoehorn my brand values in there, but but it's about perspective, isn't it? Because often it's just us working on our businesses or as a business partner, like you said before. But if you get challenged by someone else looking in, it kind of makes you go, actually, is that the right direction? Should I be doing this? Or usually is that a priority right now? Probably not, because you've got this that you need to be working on, because if you sort this out, it'll lead to this, which in turn means that this will improve anyway, and so on. So it's just about getting people who have kind of, a lot of experience in the room of different parts of growing businesses, and a lot of errors have been made, a lot of positive stuff. And it's just kind of feeding that into the pot. And, if you're challenged, then you can grow from that and be better, be stronger at what you do.
I think there's been some really good examples of people raising finance. Yeah, I've lost track of how many millions of pounds have been raised, amongst our members, but it's several, and some people with less experience find that intimidating. And I certainly remember when I was first embarking on that process of raising finance, and just having conversation, sitting around a table where someone says, you're not thinking about this right, or you should be thinking bigger about this. Add another zero to the end of that. You're probably going to find it easier to raise that finance than you are this, and do it in this way and not that way. And sometimes that pushes people into that uncomfortable zone. Those are big sums of money to raise, and they don't necessarily have those sorts of contacts in their black book. So pushing them into that uncomfortable zone and making them do things that they haven't thought about, maybe building that profile and that authority, or maybe tapping into other networks as well, or maybe thinking about the way that they present stuff and how they present stuff to people is massively important. And I think we've seen so many examples around our mastermind table of people going away and doing that. I think also things like we talk about social media a lot, and it's it's a foundation for a lot of people who want to build business profile and authority. Yeah. But actually, how many members on our mastermind have gone and done podcasts? Some of them on the HMO podcast, obviously, but other podcasts as well, and magazines, and done workshops and partnerships with people, because they've just reached out into that uncomfortable zone. They've been pushed by the group to go and actually explore those avenues, and all of a sudden that blossoms, and they're doing several magazine articles, and they're doing all sorts of things, which has a huge benefit on their business and their profile, and then raising finance and growing the business, doesn't it?
It makes me think about, and I mentioned this on our Slack, our mastermind Slack, when it happened, but I logged onto Instagram, I don't know if it was a Sunday evening or something, and literally everyone on my feed, the first 4 or 5 posts were our masterminders and in stories. So I was I just looked at the work coming out. I thought, oh my God, these guys are the best in the business. Look at what this person's doing. Look at what this person's achieving. And just the quality of what's being put out there is just untouchable. And it was just a real natural snapshot into it, just in that instance where it really took me back, and I thought, wow, that's the people that are making a difference, and everybody wants to, have that really strong standard and business presence. And because you mentioned about social media and just kind of, a great profile, and to watch them all grow in that respect has just been really amazing to be part of, actually, and to see.
So something that I think so important, and that you get from mastermind environments is best practice. So when it comes to our industry, property, HMOs, there's a lot of things that we have to do the right way. You can't drop the ball on things like certificates. You can't drop the ball in the way that you manage investor relationships, because that stuff can come back and bite you very, very quickly with catastrophic consequences. But best practice, and talking about best practice and sharing methods of best practice, is one of the things that I love the most about the Mastermind. And I know some of it's a bit boring because it's quite policy led and quite almost structured, and maybe not as creative as a lot of the stuff that we do talk about and discuss at Mastermind. But for me, it's so important. And some, even myself, I learned so much from the guys, because they're like, no, actually, this is a much better way of doing this. Or they remind me that actually the legislation actually slightly changed on that, and we shouldn't be doing that, and we need to do it in a different way. And tons of examples of that. So I think best practice in so many areas is so important. And you get that from Masterminds, because you've got these 10, 12 people all able to feed in about bits and pieces that they know and you might not have in your head, because you've got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's also quite nice to know that, you've got the answers in the room. I mean, there's times where I'll go, I'm going to check in my masterminders, because I know that there might be 3 or 4 that are experts in this one particular thing that we just need to censor ourselves on in Beespace. A prime example of that would be something in our student contracts this year. We were kind of and ahhing. I was like, let me just check with some of my masterminders, because, some of you guys have got big agencies. Got an answer straight away. Great. And it's just kind of having access to that information. Someone's got the experience and the knowledge in the room to be able to help.
Yeah, and that stuff, if you put something in a contract that's ever so slightly not right, it could cost thousands, or it could put you in a real predicament from a liability point of view. And you're right, we've got a Slack group for all of our listeners. We've actually got a Slack group for the Mastermind, and someone will drop a question in there, and within 10-15 minutes, there are 3 or 4 people able to confidently answer that question. And it's just so powerful and so amazing. People sharing things like documents. Oh, I need an important document at the last minute. Has anyone got one that they can lend me? Yeah, absolutely. Because you forge those relationships with people where people are happy to share and their opinions and share the work that they've done and created and stuff that they've paid for as well. So absolutely. What do you think about the look at building my property business, and 95% of it has been pretty hard work, Jade. It's all, I'd say been enjoyable on the whole, but most of it is pretty tough, quite challenging. And there have definitely been times for me on a personal level where it's been incredibly tough, and without people around me, it would have been really difficult without those people to run those decisions by, without some of those people to just say, look, chin up, it'll get better, you're doing the right stuff. And what do you think about that support and that motivation and encouragement piece?
Oh, God, it's so powerful. I mean, I've got a team that work with me, and I definitely have moments like that where I think, God, this is not fun. And, you just need people around you to just kind of say, look, been there, been through that, it's going to be okay. You just, someone, just kind of lean on and be honest with and open with as well. I think it's really, really powerful in our business, what we're trying to build. It's not all unicorn. What do I say? Not all unicorns and sunshine, is it? Not.
But the one person who probably knows my businesses better than anybody is my mum, and she doesn't understand them all. She doesn't understand everything we do, and she certainly doesn't understand it on a granular level. And she definitely, I'm sure, wonders what on earth I do with most of my days. But when I'm having problems, and certainly when I've had some of the serious problems, I'll share them with her, and she can usually tell when there's something on my mind. But she'll always, she'll always be like, she's always so positive, and she'll always make it better without actually having the solution. But at Mastermind and working with people, you have people that can do that and support you and help you through those tough times, but actually do have some of the solutions to help you get there as well. And I think friends and family, as much as we love them, we struggle to get that from those environments. You need to be in an environment where you've got people who understand your business, who understand the environment that you work in and the industry that you're operating in. So important.
A little tangible example of that actually is, I mean, we're always sharing if we're getting bad surveys and stuff, and this has happened, this has been knocked down, so on and so forth. I mean, we're at Mastermind tomorrow, an absolute perler of situation to share with you guys tomorrow, which is going to make anyone, it's all resolved now, but it's very dramatic, to do with a big survey and lots of money. That's going to just make everyone else feel so much better about everything that they've been through with their surveys this year. When you hear what I've got to tell everybody, I mean, it's that you need, because when you do feel down and you feel like, God, I feel like it's just relentless, you just need somebody to just go, you know what, this is going to be all right, because this has happened to me and I survived it. And that's what you get from a mastermind times 10. And that's just, that keeps you going, doesn't it? That keeps you on track. And I think a lot of our, with masterminders, and particularly as we move into 2022, we are definitely focusing more on growing not just a property portfolio, but like business in general. Because like you always say, you should have building your portfolio, but you should always have like a second stream of income coming from it as well. It's a savvy way to be. And I think, I'd like to encourage members to come forward that are looking to do both of those things. So like, for example, on our current mastermind, we've got a couple of members that have got agencies that are smaller, that really want to scale up and go bigger. And they're building their property portfolio as well. And it's like, there's people in the room that you're one of those people that done that. You've done it step by step. You've been through those challenges. That's gold dust to that person that is trying to scale up an agency. That's, and we've both got multiple businesses within our property development, and we've grown them organically ourselves. Like, well, not organically. I mean, there's been focus, but we've been through those hurdles, haven't we? Like digital operations, developments, all of that stuff. And I think that members coming forward, I'd like, to really encourage from a business perspective to kind of think, I want to do this alongside my portfolio. This is the place I can go to get both sets of experience from us and the members that are continuing with us as well.
Yeah, it's actually quite difficult to summarize all of the benefits you get from something like a mastermind, because it is so massive, and we've only talked about some of the stuff that you get in the room. The relationships that you build with people spill out well beyond the room. The social stuff, the calls that happen between sessions, the meetings that happen, the deals that people are doing with them, the introductions that people are making. There's this huge spider network of stuff that goes on just from working with this 10, 12 people, and it can really help anybody. And this is what we've seen, massively expand and scale their business. And that's sort of why we've, I suppose, edged towards the direction of running the mastermind with more of a business growth in mind. Obviously it's property related, but it's not any longer just HMO orientated. It is a business and property mastermind. And I think we've got to be honest, haven't we, Jade, that anyone who's listening today, if you're looking to do that yourself, and if you think the time's right to start seriously scaling up your property business, and you want to be around the right people, and if you think that this could be right, it's important to understand that it isn't a beginner's program. Masterminds aren't for people at the very earliest stages. It's easy to get swallowed up in a room with people doing a lot of stuff. And it's also important to remember that a mastermind is as much about what you can give as it is what you can take from the mastermind. Masterminds work on that mutual value that people can bring. And so we're really encouraging people to come forward and apply for our 2022 mastermind, who want to do that, want to scale, and also think that they can bring something to the mastermind as well. And obviously, I mean, hopefully today's episode has given you a bit of a flavour about Jade and I and how we work, because we're also a very chalk and cheese relationship, aren't we? Really?
Oh my God, incredibly. It's a good dynamic though, isn't it, between us? And often at Mastermind, you and I, we disagree on things, and we will call each other out and say, well, that's not what I think. Like, I don't think that should go into planning. And you'll say, say, don't put it into planning. I'll say, put it into planning. And we'll both have a good reason for kind of why we're saying that. But the dynamics, you do get, a very rounded set of skills from us both, I guess, and our kind of dynamic.
Yeah, and we're all different, and the way that we interact with people and the way that we, as people, respond to that is different for us all. And actually our learning styles and teaching styles are quite different as well. I'm actually quite as most people know, I'm very black and white. You say you're black and white, but I'm actually incredibly black and white, aren't I? It's
Yeah.
often yeah or no, and show me the evidence. And you're a bit gentler about stuff often, which is great. You've got a fantastic way with people and helping people through particularly difficult times. But I think the mastermind environment that we have created is amazing. And I think actually you're right. You touched on that moment where you saw just some of the stuff that our guys were posting on the mastermind. But I am super proud of
Yeah.
and it's not what we've done, but it's an environment we've facilitated, and we've
Absolutely.
been very
Yeah.
conscious about the people we've brought onto the program. But I'm so proud of the whole program, and when I look at some of the achievements, the amount of properties bought and sold, the amount of new revenue created, the amount of finance raised, the number of problems solved, the relationships that will be there for a long, long time, well after our mastermind ends this year. I'm really, really proud of that, because that isn't easy to create. It's easy to get a few people in a room and pay for something, but to actually create something like that I think it creates a value that you cannot put on paper, I think is really tough to do. And I'm so proud of what we have done with the mastermind.
Yeah, 100%. And we did it our way, right? Like we changed the way that it's been done before, in terms of like we're really committed to hosting our mastermind in a beautiful environment, because we feel like it's better for your mindset to be somewhere that's really well designed and is an experience within itself. Because for this incredible day that you get away, we want you to be in the best possible space. We don't want you to be in a Holiday Inn conference space. You're not going to have your best ideas in an environment like that. So,
No way.
we host, don't we, our mastermind in 2022. We'll continue at the Chimney House in Sheffield, which is, oh my God, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful industrial building, like the best I've ever been in.
Yeah, it's
And that's
amazing.
really important to us to give that environment to our members. So yeah, definitely what we've created is very, very unique indeed.
And I think we had at one point 17 member businesses on the mastermind, and actually next year it is going to be smaller. It's going to be more
Yep.
intimate.
Yep.
And we think that we can serve better value that way, and it'll be maximum 12 people. And we've got a number of people continuing on from this year, and that is why we're only able to take a very small number of people onto the mastermind for next year. But it is an environment where you really build relationships with people. You'll have the time to talk about the problems that you've got. It's not one of these masterminds where you turn up and there's 60 people in the room. For me, that just wouldn't work, and for you, I know that wouldn't work, Jade.
No, we definitely want to give the best value that we can with Mastermind, and more than anything, we want people to go and implement and grow, because that's what we want to see. It motivates us to do it, to see people smashing it, don't let me get my soapbox out, but like just changing the industry and making standards better and doing business better, because there's so much awful, terrible stuff going off out there. So, our mastermind and the masterminders, they're just, it's just about improving things, isn't it, in general? That's a big motivation for me, to see that.
And me too, for sure. So for anyone who's listening and thinks that the mastermind could be right for them, all you need to do is just reach out to Jade or I. You follow us on social media, just drop us a DM.
Yeah.
If you've got my email, send me an email, and we'll talk to you about what's involved. We'll have a call with you, and we'll help you make a decision as to whether or not it's right. Just remember, it's not a beginner program. We're looking for people who've got businesses already, property businesses, and are looking to start and scale that process. It's in Sheffield, so you've got to be prepared to travel. There's definitely a time commitment as well, and that's really, really important. And it's an annual program, so there's also a 12-month commitment, and that's really important. To build relationships with people and to actually get the results you want, you've got to be bought into the fact that this does take more than a few months to do. So it is a 12-month program. But reach out to Jade or I, and we'll arrange a call with you. We can have that chat. But there are only a very, very, very small number of people, and I know places, and I know that will disappoint a few people. But Jade, it has been lovely as always to chat to you. I almost forget that we've hit record, because this is pretty much like a normal chat for us, just talking about the industry and talking about cool stuff in property and laughing a little bit. And
Yeah. We
And
do. We share a few DMs on Insta, don't we, when we see things.
we do, yeah. And thank you for coming on the show. I still want to get you back on the show and probe you a little bit more about your new projects and the hive. But I know you're busy and we're on the run up to Christmas. So next year, I'm definitely going to get you back on for a third episode. I'm going to get you to properly spill the goss on everything. But thank you for coming back on the show today. Thank you for sharing your mastermind story. And thank you for coming on and chatting about our mastermind with all of our listeners.
Oh, thank you, Andy. I'll see you very soon in Sheffield.